All right, ready to dive in. Today we're looking into something pretty important. How accurate are the labels on cannabinoid products? The ones that tell you how much CBD and THC is in your gummies or lotions.
Yeah, it's actually a really big deal. I mean, those labels aren't just about knowing what you're buying. They have huge implications legally for your health and even for how much people trust this whole industry, which is growing so fast.
So we've got some research here, and it seems like maybe things aren't as simple as just reading the label. What have you found?
Well, studies like this one published in JAMA, and there are others too, they all show that a lot of CBD products are mislabeled, like a surprising number.
What does mislabeled even mean in this case?
It's mostly about the amounts of THC and CBD, what the label claims the product has versus what's actually there when it's tested in a lab. And the differences can be pretty big.
Not just like rounding off the numbers a bit.
Nope. We're talking products that say they have a bunch of CBD, but tests show there's barely any. Or the opposite, where the THC is way higher than the label says, sometimes even going over the legal limit for hemp.
Wow, that's a problem.
Right. And legality is just one part of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if someone's using these products for medical reasons, that could be dangerous.
Exactly. Like, imagine you need a specific dose for pain or anxiety, and the label's wrong. It's not just inconvenient, it could be a safety issue. And then on top of that, remember, hemp is only legal if it has less than 0.3% THC. Anything more than that, and the company selling it, they're in trouble.
And someone buying it might have a really bad experience. Like, they think they're getting CBD to chill out, but it's actually got way more THC.
Yeah, that unexpected psychoactive effect, that's a major concern, especially since some folks are really sensitive to THC.
So, okay, inaccurate labels are bad for the consumer. But does it affect the whole industry too?
Big time. When people can't trust the labels, they lose faith in the whole thing. They don't want to try new products, they get skeptical. That makes it harder to invest in research and development too. It's like this cycle where everybody loses.
So what happens when companies get caught with inaccurate labels?
Well, for the consumers, it could be anything from unintended side effects to their treatment just not working. Even legal problems in places where any amount of THC is illegal.
Yikes. And for the companies themselves.
Well, they could face investigations, lawsuits, and their reputation would take a huge hit. It's bad all around, really emphasizes how important it is to get this right.
So how do we make sure the labels are telling the truth? And that these products are safe?
2 words. Analytical testing. Plus following good manufacturing practices. Those are the key ingredients, pun intended.
Okay, testing makes sense, but what does that actually involve?
For one, companies should be using methods like HPLC, which stands for high-performance liquid chromatography. It's a fancy way of saying we can measure exactly how much of each cannabinoid is in a product.
HPLC. Sounds complicated.
It is, but it's reliable. And even better than just companies testing themselves, they should be using independent labs. Third-party testing is like having a neutral referee, so you know the results are honest.
So third-party testing equals trustworthiness. Got it. But what about those good manufacturing practices you mentioned? What are those?
We call them cGMP. It's basically a set of rules that covers every step of how these products are made.
Like what kind of rules?
Well, for example, how they store and handle the raw ingredients matters a lot. If things aren't kept at the right temperature or they're exposed to too much light, the cannabinoids can break down or get contaminated. It all affects the final product.
So cGMP is about making sure everything's done right from start to finish.
Exactly. That's what shows they're committed to quality, and ultimately that's what keeps consumers safe.
It's crazy how much is involved in just putting that label on a CBD product, huh? There's chemistry, regulations, health concerns. A lot more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, and this is all still pretty new. There are definitely challenges to overcome, but as long as we keep learning and demanding better practices, I think this industry has a bright future.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to something as complex as this.
Couldn't agree more. You know, we spend so much time talking about CBD and THC, but there are so many other cannabinoids out there.
Right. It's like we forget there's this whole family of compounds in the cannabis plant.
It's a big family, too. Over 100 different cannabinoids have been identified.
So what else is there besides the famous CBD and THC? What's caught your eye?
Well, one that's been getting a lot of attention is CBG, cannabigerol.
CBG, okay.
Yeah, it's sometimes called the mother of all cannabinoids.
The mother.
Because it's actually what a lot of the other cannabinoids come from. Like THC and CBD, they start out as CBG in the plant. Then as the plant grows, enzymes convert that CBG into those other compounds.
So CBG is like the foundation, the basic building block.
Yeah, you got it. And while mature plants have less CBG than CBD or THC, researchers are getting really interested in it because it seems like it could have some really cool benefits.
Interesting. So what kind of benefits are we talking about?
Some studies suggest that CBG might be anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, even neuroprotective. There are even some very early hints it could help with things like glaucoma and inflammatory bowel disease.
Wow, that's a pretty wide range of potential uses.
It is. Now, you are starting to see some products with CBG in them, but it's not as common as CBD yet.
I guess it's still early days.
Yeah. But you can find CBG in things like oils, tinctures, even creams. But like with anything, it's important to be careful. Make sure you're buying from a company that's trustworthy, that does good testing, and of course has accurate labels.
Right, all that stuff we were talking about before.
Exactly. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about CBN. That's cannabinol.
Okay, CBN, what's that one all about?
Well, unlike CBG, which is the starting point, CBN is kind of at the other end. It forms as THC breaks down over time.
So if CBG is the young one, CBN is the wise elder.
Haha, I like that. And CBN is getting known for its relaxing and sleep-promoting effects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some studies and a lot of anecdotal evidence suggest it could be a natural sedative.
Interesting. I feel like a lot of people are looking for natural sleep aids.
They are, and CBN might be a good option, although we need more research on that for sure.
Always more research. It seems like we keep saying that, but it's true. So we've got CBG, the precursor, and CBN, the breakdown product. What other interesting cannabinoids are out there?
Well, there's one called THCV, tetrahydrocannabivarin, that I find really fascinating.
Okay, THCV. That sounds kind of like THC.
It does, and they're actually similar in structure,
Well,
but they have very different effects.
okay, so they're related, but not the same.
Right. See, THC is known to make people hungry, right? But THCV, it's thought to actually suppress appetite.
Oh, wow. That's a
Right.
big difference.
Yeah. Researchers are really interested in that, thinking it could help with weight management and metabolic issues.
Interesting. So how does that work? Why do they have such different effects?
It has to do with how they interact with the CB1 receptor. That's the same receptor that THC binds to.
Okay, so they both work on the same target in the body.
Right. But THCV does something interesting. It can both activate and block the CB1 receptor.
So it's not just turning it on or off, it's like fine-tuning it.
Exactly, and that's what scientists think might be behind its appetite-suppressing effects and maybe even benefits for blood sugar control and inflammation.
So we've got CBG, CBN, and THCV, all these cannabinoids doing their own thing.
It's really amazing, right? All these different compounds, all coming from the same plant family, and we're only just beginning to understand them.
This whole world of cannabinoids is so much bigger than I realized.
And with all this variety and so much we still don't know, it's extra important for consumers to be careful. You really need to do your research and make sure you're buying from companies that are transparent about what's in their products.
That's a good reminder. Always look for those third-party test results.
Exactly. That's how you know you can trust what the label says.
You know, it's pretty amazing how much research has been done on cannabinoids lately. We've learned so much in just a few years.
It really is incredible, and we're just starting to figure out all the ways these compounds can interact with the human body. It's exciting. There's so much potential.
Speaking of potential, is there anything in particular that's got you really interested right now? Like, what are the researchers excited about?
One thing that's really hot right now is the entourage effect.
The entourage effect.
Yeah, it's this idea that different cannabinoids might work better together. Like when you take them in combination, their effects are stronger than when you take them alone.
Interesting. So instead of just taking, say, pure CBD, maybe a mix of different cannabinoids is better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like instead of isolating just one part of the plant, you get the benefits of the whole thing.
Mm.
And there's more and more evidence that this could be a really effective way to use these compounds.
So the whole is greater than the sum of its parts?
That's the idea. Of course, we need more research to really nail down how this works, but it's a really promising area.
It makes you think maybe we've been focusing too much on single cannabinoids, like CBD.
Yeah, it's definitely worth considering. The interactions between these compounds can get pretty complex.
It seems like the more we learn about cannabinoids, the more we realize how much we don't know.
It's true, and that's what makes it so fascinating, but also means we need to be careful. As consumers, we have to stay informed and be smart about what we choose.
So what's the most important thing for people to remember as they navigate this whole world of cannabinoids and all these different products?
I'd say it comes down to education. The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
You'll do your research.
Absolutely. Don't just believe the hype. Look at the science, ask questions, and choose products that come from trustworthy companies.
And look for those third-party test results.
Always. That's one of the best ways to know you're getting what you paid for. And don't be afraid to push for more transparency in this industry. As consumers, we have a lot of power.
Yeah, if we demand better practices, the industry will have to listen.
Exactly. We can all work together to make this a safer and more effective field for everyone.
It's been a great conversation. I feel like I've learned a lot. From the basics of label accuracy to all these amazing new cannabinoids, it's been a real deep dive.
I agree. And while our deep dive might be ending here, the exploration doesn't stop.
That's right. There's always more to learn. So, to everyone listening, stay curious and keep asking questions. Until next time.